You know, I'm still looking at Section 33 of the Electoral Act. These are things that you have to go back and look at them because these are written in plain English and you see what exactly it is saying. And when you go back to 36(1 also, that tells you about the before, not even during. And what INEC has done in this case, giving the All Progressives Congress the opportunity to field another candidate, seem not to have gone with this 33 as you have highlighted and as it is here. How can the political party and even INEC get out of this so that it doesn't look like flouting of the Electoral Act? Because this can as well be tested in a law court if this is not followed strictly. You know, there are a lot of complications. For some time now, the Supreme Court has resisted the attempt of agencies of government and institutions of the federal government to directly approach the Supreme Court for interpretation of the provision of the Constitution. The Supreme Court has maintained the view in a number of cases now that when they come, they just tell them, go to the Federal High Court and start from there. You are not a state. Our original jurisdiction under Section 232 is when there's a dispute between a state and another state, or a state and the federal government. Otherwise, INEC could have gone to the Supreme Court to
for interpretation of this.
For a quick interpretation, right? And to see whether they have salvation under those two provisions, so as to accommodate
just a quick substitution. One. Can't INEC, being a representative of the federal government, be seen as...
I'm telling you what our laws are thinking currently. That when you are approached, they say you are an institution of state, you are not a state. Don't come and bother us. You can't provoke or activate our original jurisdiction. So I doubt it very much whether INEC could have even gone to, because a lot of people have said, yeah, go to the Supreme Court, go and get an interpretation, and all that, and all that, and all that. You know, and the political parties themselves are not states. They cannot go there. So if you go to the Federal High Court and start the process, we don't know, even by case reference, we don't know where to get to Supreme Court.
You know, that would have been one quick way to actually get into the bottom of this, going to the Supreme Court for interpretation of this. But some others, as have been on this program, did also talk about the doctrine of necessity in getting out of this logjam.
No, I reject that doctrine of necessity. There is nothing like doctrine of necessity here. The law is there. If you have two provisions, one governing a candidate dying before the poll, commencement of poll, one governing that candidate who becomes a governor-elect, dying before inauguration, but there is no provision governing a candidate dying during election. So what do? Is to conduct the election as if that candidate had not died. Declare your result, assuming the candidate that died in the election is not the one who had 240,000 votes in his hand. Would they be talking about substitution and all these things they are doing? Conduct the election as it is, and then let them go to the tribunal to sort it out if anybody is going to complain about that. I'm saying that what INEC is doing is interloping. It has no such duty. Conduct it the way it is. Oh, you ought not to go to the tribunal. We've conducted it, we've declared. We ought not to have even organized a supplementary election as I've argued, but we've done it in error. So let's just finish this thing and then go to the tribunal. That's the end of the matter for INEC.
Okay, now the APC says it's going to conduct fresh primaries and then a candidate will emerge. When the result from the previous primary actually still stands and still holds water, what happens to the runner-up in the previous primary election?
That's the complication I'm talking about. Now, they are talking about conducting fresh primary. Fresh primary amongst who? Who will be qualified for that fresh primary? And so, if that fresh primary is conducted, the person was the second runner-up or first runner-up in the last election and doesn't emerge in this fresh primary. So what is right? Can he then be picked as the first runner-up, thereby meaning that you don't need a fresh primary to automatically assume the position of the candidate? So if he does, what will then be the effect of that, legal effect of that, vis-a-vis the provision of Section 138 of the Electoral Act? And let me dilate here a little. Section 138 of the Electoral Act provides the grounds for nullifying an election. If you hastily and heedlessly substitute a candidate, as they are trying to do now, that candidate can be attacked by 3 of those grounds. And you only need to succeed on one. First, that candidate was not qualified. to contest the election. So a candidate who was superimposed at the tail end of the process, who didn't earn the previous votes, will he be qualified? That the election was vitiated or invalidated by corruption or non-compliance with the provisions of the Electoral Act, and that that candidate was not elected by a majority of lawfully cast votes. So you say somebody who is bidding for merely 49,000 so-called votes by registered voters had earned a majority of the he qualified votes. So those three grounds will catch that candidate in an election petition. I'm telling you,
But then
the problem we have
the
is that we don't reason deeply.
What about the precedence of the party being the one contesting, not the individual?
Oh, that precedent has been diluted by the provision of Section 141 of the Electoral Act. Following that precedent in year 2008, reported in Nigerian Weekly Law Report 1080, the National Assembly amended the Electoral Act, and they then inserted Section 141 to the effect that nobody who has not participated in all the stages of the election can be declared a winner of that election. So I'm telling you, it's there, check. So let's just hope for the best for them. But I'm saying that they should just resolve this matter quickly and move on, unless Nigeria focus on
All right,
very serious issues.
Mr. Ogunye, the matter seems as though it gets more complicated. What does this portend for our democratic process, considering the fact that we still have the Bayelsa elections ahead and several
then
other
to
elections?
imagine that they are saying that their supplementary election is going to, you couldn't handle a state election. So you are now arranging to have the same Bayelsa, challenge topography, riverine area. This one, Kogi State, not as challenged as you had a supplementary election. So what are you going to have in Bayelsa as INEC? And yet you are now converging the two elections to hold on the same day. Now what it portends, to answer your question directly, is that we need to continue to work on our electoral system. We need to continue to work on our political system. We need to continue to work on our constitutionalism. I'm not too happy with INEC. And it is not about this INEC as constituted, even about previous INEC leadership. People may say that talk is cheap, but in my public interventions, I give a lot of consideration for people who are occupying offices and doing their best, so that you don't run them down and then take undue advantage of them because you are not in that position, right? But you see, you don't need to reinvent the wheel. This need not to be this complicated. If you are supposed to organize an election one day before the election, usually they will say that they mobilize 15,000 policemen, 30,000 policemen, 50,000 policemen for one office election, no general election. And you couldn't deliver that election promptly, and now you now have to stagger and then create problems. Why should I give you a pat on the back? Why should I give excuses for you? Why should I then say that, oh, you know, they are just come to the office, they are still trying to put their acts together? Why should I do that? Right? So we need to continue in a robust manner, constructively to critique our electoral processes, our political system, and then nudge them to the ideal. What is going on is not, I don't want to accept a black man standard. It's pejorative, or an African standard,
You know,
or a Nigerian standard. Oh, we are who we are, so we won't do it well. Rome was not built in a day. It took America 200 and something years. Oh, I don't want to take that because you have those examples to just implant here and domesticate and roll on.
Let's just go back a bit to the section of the Electoral Act you talked about, 141, where it says the Tribunal or INEC cannot declare anybody a winner unless he has gone through all the stages.
The Tribunal.
The Tribunal cannot declare.
That nobody can be declared, whether the Tribunal
unless he
or
has
INEC.
gone through all the stages,
Yes, all the stages
of the elections. Then, can Mr. Falike, who was the running mate of late Audu, if he goes to the supplement, can he stand as a candidate or be declared a winner?
He can.
Because did he go through all the stages of the election? Did he go through the primaries?
You don't need to go through the primary.
Is that not a stage in the election?
No. You don't need to go through the primary as you are saying. That's a stage in the election.
Yes.
But somebody who went through the primary picked him.
But
And
he
so-
did not go through the primary.
Just a minute.
Okay.
Picked him, and he became the deputy governorship candidate of that person. In any case, if that is the contestation of anybody, they will have to go to the tribunal to prove that a deputy governorship candidate who participated in an election will not be qualified to be declared a winner because he didn't go through all the stages. That's what I'm saying. But in my view, he went through all those stages. Because when you are saying somebody didn't participate in a primary, is he as a contestant or as an elector?
Let's very quickly look at this section of the
As a
Constitution.
member of the Congress of the state.
Of the Electoral Act. Excuse me. If you look at Section 53 of the Electoral Act, a whole lot happened there. And perhaps we have to come back to INEC before we close and see where INEC got its powers to declare that election inconclusive. If you look at 53(1) and 2, for the first one, 53(1) says no voter shall vote for more than one candidate or record more than one vote in favor of any candidate at any one election. In this case, Kogi State one election. And 2 says, where the votes cast at an election in any polling unit exceed the number of registered voters in that polling unit,
That's what
the
is called
result of
overvoting.
the election for that polling unit shall be declared null and void.
Overvoting. That's what is overvoting.
So what's the difference between what INEC said about Kogi election, talking about exceeding the registered voters?
So, no. They are not saying so. They're saying that they've cancelled some results. If you cancel some results as on the basis of overvoting and is to be declared null and void, so why are you trying to have recourse to them again through the back door? Why not declare the results? Indeed, if you look at the scenario, let's just extrapolate here and let's just assume that Governor Wada will clear the entire 49,000 votes in this supplementary election. What do you think will happen? There will then be a fresh election under Section 179. Why? Because he wouldn't have qualified to be declared a winner. He would have had the popular vote, but he wouldn't have had the spread. Having gotten just one quarter of the votes, at least one quarter of the votes, in 5 local government areas, as against the late Audu, who already had 16. That's why I'm saying that we ought not to have taken through this course.
Jiti Ogunye, many thanks for coming on the program.
It's my pleasure.
We'll take a moment here. We'll return shortly. Stay with us.